Okay, it's time to jump into lesson 3. Today we're going to talk about specific angle measures and their sums. So here we have a triangle. Triangles always have 3 angles. So you have angle A, and you have angle B, and you'll have angle C. Okay, and this was just marked randomly. The order that these were marked doesn't really matter. Okay, but the sum of the angle measures will always add to equal 180. So angle A plus angle B plus angle C will always equal 180 degrees. So, and that's true for all triangles. Now, let's also remember something. Something we talked about early on was that a straight angle measures 180 degrees. Okay, so straight angles, don't forget that. (180 degrees). Okay, so now that we know that the angles of a triangle add up to be 180, let's go about finding the missing angle measures in some figures. Okay, so here we've got 2 triangles within one big triangle. Let's focus on this triangle first. Look at angle X. So if we look at angle X, this angle here, what do we need to know before we can find that angle measure? Well, notice that this angle X is a portion of this triangle, and notice that we have this angle measure of 56, and we know that this angle measure is 38. So how could we go about finding the measure of angle X? Well, we can take 180 and subtract 56, excuse me, and subtract 38, and that will give us 86 degrees. So angle X is 86 degrees. Now here's something, I don't necessarily care to write out the string of numbers this way. I prefer to go ahead and add 56 and 38. So I have 180 minus 56 plus 38 is going to be 94. Now all I have to do is from 180 subtract the sum of those two, 94, and I'm still going to get 86 degrees. So that's how we found the measure of angle X. Now let's see what we can also find. Well, now that we know that the measure of angle X is 86 degrees, how can we find the measure of angle Z? So this is a straight angle, so I know that 180 minus, not equals, 180 minus 86 will give us, what is that? 94. Pretty sure that'll be 94. So this angle is 94 degrees. And so how can we find this last angle of Y? Well, we can do a couple of things. If we look at this little triangle, if we add 94 and 19 and subtract that from 180, so it looks like this, 180 minus 94 minus 19, that will be, what will that be? 180, well, I'm going to erase that, but 180 minus 19 minus 94 is going to be, I believe, 67 degrees. So this angle measure is 67 degrees. So what are the 3 angle measures? X equals 86 degrees. Please be real specific. Y equals 67 degrees and Z equals 94 degrees. And if you don't put your degree symbols, then you're not giving the correct measure, or you're not giving the measurement for each of those angles. Okay, and first I didn't ask, what kind of triangle do we have? This angle is 38. You have 56 and 86. This triangle would be a scalene triangle. 94. This angle measure is 94. This is 67, and this is 19. So this would be, what kind of angle would that be? An obtuse, because this is greater than 90. So just a little extra practice. So there you go. All right, so let's move on to another example, and let's talk about what we want to find. Okay, remember that these little marks tell us that BC is congruent to AC. Okay, so let's see if we have enough to be able to find angle measures of this for this triangle. Well, notice that we are given this angle measure of 110. If this angle measure is 110, then this angle measure would have to be 180 minus 10. I said 180. I meant 110. That's 116. I'm sorry. That's a 116. So if I take 180 and subtract 116, that's going to give me 64 degrees. So this angle is 64 degrees. All right, since these two legs, since this side of the triangle and this side of the triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite them are also congruent. So the angle that is opposite this side is 64 degrees. The angle opposite this side will also be 64 degrees. So if we know that this is a 64 degree angle and this angle is 64, then what can we do to find the measure of this missing angle here? Well, we can add 64 and 64 to get 128, and then subtract 128 from 180, and we'll get 52 degrees. So now this angle measure is 52 degrees. Well, if this angle is 52 degrees, this angle is also 52 degrees because these are vertical angles. All right, so we've got an angle measure within this triangle. So let's see what we've got to work with here. So we have this side, this side of the triangle is congruent to this side of the triangle. And so since these two legs or sides are congruent, the angles opposite those will also be congruent. So 52 degrees is opposite this side. This angle D is opposite this side. So then we know that this angle will be 52 degrees. So now that we've got these two angles being 52 degrees, then how can we find the missing angle here? Well, 52 plus 52 is 104. And if we take 180 and subtract 104, we are going to get 76. So this angle measure is 76 degrees. Okay, so once again, the angles of a triangle A, B, and C add up to be 180. And that is something that will always be true. So that piece of information can help you find the measure of angles of a triangle that you might need to find. All right, so now let's scoot up and let's take a look at example 3. So in this particular example, what do we know we have? What do we have in this triangle that we know? Well, I know that this angle, not angle, but this side and this side are congruent, which means they have the same measure. So what that means is that the angles opposite them are also going to have the same measure. So this angle, let's see. So that means this angle and this angle will also be congruent. All right, so I can call this this side right here, since these two are congruent, I can also call this x plus 10 degrees. So how am I going to use, what do I do to figure out what the actual angle measures are? So the sum of the three angles must equal 180. So that means 3x plus x plus 10 plus x plus 10 equals 180. So I've written an equation by adding the three angle measures, and now all I have to do is clean this up and solve for x, and then I can figure out what the measure of all those angles are. So I have a 3x plus 1x plus 1x, that's going to be 5x. 10 plus 10 is 20 equals 180. So at this point, I just need to solve this for x. So I will subtract 20 from both sides, and I get 5x equals 160, and x then will be 32. So if x is 32, then the angle measure for angle B will equal 32 plus 10, which equals 42 degrees. And that means angle G will also be 42 degrees. And that leaves us with U, angle U, which will be 3 times 32, and that gives us 96 degrees. So this angle B is 42 degrees, so is angle G, 42 degrees, and angle U will be 96 degrees. And based on these three angle measures, this would be an obtuse angle, triangle, because you have an angle measure greater than 90. Okay, all right, so here we have another example. For example 4, so let's talk about what we've got here. Here we've got one triangle, ADB, inside another triangle, ACB. So let's think about what we know. Well, here's what I see. I see that I have this side, and this side are all congruent. And because they are all congruent, that means triangle ACB is an equilateral triangle. Equilateral, if I can spell. EQUILATRAL. This is an equilateral triangle. So because that's an equilateral triangle, that means that angle C is a 60-degree angle. That means this angle here is also 60, and this angle is 60. So this is a 60-degree angle. this is a 60-degree angle, and this is a 60-degree angle. So that's going to get kind of big. Okay, so keep in mind that this whole angle right here is 60, and this is 60. Okay, so now let's drop down and take a look at the smaller triangle. We know that this side is congruent to this side. So that means this angle and this angle are congruent. So they are congruent. So let's see what that gives us. So what we're trying to find is we want to find the measure of this little angle right here. So if the measure of this angle right here is 88, then what if we subtract 88 from 180, then we'll know what the measure of this angle is and this angle. Okay? So let's see if that's going to be helpful. Let's see if we can figure that out. So 180 minus 88 is going to give us, what is that? 92. Yes. So if you subtract 88 from 180, you're going to be left with 92. Now, if you divide that by 2, you're going to get 46. So that means this angle is 46 degrees and this angle is 46 degrees. So if this angle is 46 and we know that this bigger angle is 60, what can we do to find that little bitty angle measure right there? Well, all we have to do is take 60 degrees and subtract 46, and that's going to give us 14 degrees. So 14 degrees, x equals 14 degrees. Okay? So here we just took the information that we know about triangles, that the angle measures of a triangle add up to be 180, excuse me. Then we used that information to help us find other pieces of angles or other angles so that we could ultimately find the missing angle here. Okay, so I'm going to pull in one more example, or another example for number 5. So what I want us to do is I want us to notice that there's no figure drawn, and I want us to take the information that we're given and draw a triangle. It says in triangle ABC, if side AC is congruent to side CB, the measure of angle A is 3x plus 18, the measure of angle B is 7x minus 58, and the measure of angle C is 2x minus 8. Find x and the measure of each angle. So I'm just going to draw a triangle. I'm just going to draw a triangle like this. This is not exactly what the triangle is going to look like necessarily, but this is just what I'm using. So I have a triangle A, B, C. So I'm going to say this is A, I'm going to say this is B, and this is C. Okay? So let's talk about what we know. We know that AC is congruent to CB. So I know that these two sides are congruent, and we know then that their angles opposite those sides are also congruent. So angle A, angle B are going to have the same measure. Okay, so now let's see what else we have. We know that angle A is 3x plus 18. And that means that the measure of angle B, the measure of angle B is described as 7x minus 58. And we know that the measure of angle C is labeled as 2x minus 8. 2x minus 8. Okay, so how do we go about finding all of these missing pieces? This is all we have to do is, well, we can do a couple of things. Here's what I like to do with these two. Since we know that, there's a couple of things we could do. I know that these two angle measures are the same, and since they are the same, angle A is congruent to angle B, then I know that 3x plus 18 equals 7x minus 58. Okay, so all I have to do now is I can solve for x. Now, another thing I could have done, another approach to this would have been to take, you could take 2x minus 8 and add it to 3x plus 18 and add it to 7x minus 58 and set that equal to 180. But this is a lot shorter because we didn't necessarily have to use angle C because we know that these two are going to have the same measure. Even though they don't look the same, they have the same measure. So in either case, we can solve this equation. I will subtract 3x. This gives me 18 here, and I have 4x minus 58. I will add 58 to both sides. And that's going to give me 76 equals 4x. And now when I divide both sides by 4, I get 76 divided by 4, which is 19. So my x value is 19. That's not really a degree there. So I have 19, and that means the measure of angle A equals 3x plus 18, which will be 3 times 19 plus 18. And this will be 3 times 19 will be 57. Add 18, and we get 75. So the measure of angle A is 75 degrees. There's no reason to plug 19 in for angle B or 7x minus 58 because we know that angle A and angle B have the same measure, so that's also 75 degrees. And now what can we do to figure out the measure of angle C? Well, I can take my 75 and 75, which is 150. Yep. And subtract 150 from 180, and that gives us the measure of angle C to be 30 degrees. Okay, so this measure is 30 degrees, and these two measures are 75 degrees each. So that's really not a good accurate drawing, but I didn't necessarily have to have an exact drawing to find these measures. I was just setting this up so I could label it and find my missing value of x.